organizing teams also. So we are trying to make it. So Dr. Mahadevan from Seetharaman, and he is in HUA faculty, and we welcome you, sir. Here, welcome you here. And your topic is simplifying and summarizing Sanatana Dharma scriptures for our. No, it's on this. Okay, okay. Your topic is balancing traditions, modernity, and an integrative approach. The Patanjali IMA, conflict and Vedic perspectives on resolution. Sir, we welcome you here for your speech. Thank you. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. Namaste, everybody. So happy to be here. It's been a long day, I think, so I'll quickly get started. How many of you here are aware about this Patanjali and the Indian Medical Association conflict? Okay. So just to summarize, everybody knows Baba Ramdev and Acharya Balakrishna. They have this company called Patanjali Ayurved Limited, and they've been promoting a lot of Ayurveda-based, fast-moving consumer goods products. And this graph just represents, based on some public data, their growth. So if you see from 2006 to 2024, in fact, their peak growth period was between 2014 and 2018. They really grew to be about 10,000 crore company in India. And this growth, unfortunately, has brought a lot of attention also from various corners. So we'll talk a little bit more about this in the following slides. Okay. Some of the slides are not showing correctly. Anyway, so there has been a very conflicting history of Ayurveda also. So I'm going to go back and forth between the Patanjali IMA conflict and what's happening with Ayurveda also in general in India and around the world. There are a lot of tensions during the colonial era. Ayurveda was completely marginalized in favor of Western medicine. And post-independence, there have been some efforts, but then the medical association and organizations were not too happy. Earlier, there was a program called Ayurveda Acharya program, which was kind of based on the Gurukul style. It was a 7-year program. There were a lot of people who studied in that program. That kind of got switched from this 7-year program into a modern BAMS program. So Bachelor of Ayurveda and Medical Science. And it was modeled based on the MBBS curriculum. So nowadays, what happens is most of the BAMS people who are here, they will tell you they study a lot of modern medicine the first 2-3 years. So they are very common. First 2-3 years of curriculum is very similar, and then they go on to study other Ayurveda subjects. Then there was a new education policy proposed in 2020, and we'll talk about it later. And particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, the Patanjali released a drug named Coronil, and there was a lot of controversy around it. We'll talk about that. And there have been many other legal disputes also about various other herbs and so on. So, Coronil. So, how many of you have heard of Coronil, or you have even taken Coronil? Okay. Few of you here. So, they introduced it in 2020. The problem was they claimed it was a cure for coronavirus. And this was based on these two studies, one in a zebrafish model and other was a randomized clinical trial where they showed, hey, people who took Coronil had better or faster recovery compared to people who did not take. So they were all very suspect studies. And all these Coronil had all these herbs, mulethi, giloy, tulsi, and ashwagandha. They're all known to be immune boosting. Okay, so when they did this, they had a lot of advertisements and so on. That's when people got upset. So this is again a debate on TV between Baba Ramdev and the General Secretary of IMA. Finally, I think in 2022, the Indian Medical Association, they filed a case against Baba Ramdev and Patanjali, saying, hey, they're doing all these false claims. And then the in 2024, early this year, Supreme Court had a temporary ban on their advertisements. And then the court case went on and it just concluded recently. So we'll talk about some of the slides later on. So this is just an example of one conflict. But Ayurveda has had a very conflicting history actually in India over the last century or so. Now, if you think it's only coronal, these are some of the other popular herbs. Guduchi, KSM 66 is Ashwagandha, then there is Triphala, Brahmi, and Shankapushpi. I'm sure many of you would have, how many of you have taken at least one of these? I'm sure everybody would have taken at least one of these herbs, right? So, anytime the popularity of some drug goes up, somebody funds some study and some hospital, college, somebody will do a study and publish in some journal saying, oh, look, Guduchi is linked to liver toxicity. And the IMA will come out and criticize, oh, these products are not scientifically validated, there are problems. Ashwagandha hit so much popularity even in the US. In fact, during Corona time, this was the number one medicine that was imported or herb that was imported, and sales were through the roof. And there were questions on the immunity claims. Then Triphala, a lot of people take Triphala for better digestion and elimination. So there are questions on its safety and efficacy. Brahmi is actually good for cognition, memory, neuro, and there are questions. Same with Shankapushpi. So there are a few more. So anytime the popularity of a drug goes up or a herb goes up, then somebody starts protesting and saying there is some problem. Now, if you see, why is there a conflict between Ayurveda and modern medicine, right? See, it's because there are epistemological differences in these two systems of medicine or health system. If you see, if you look at how Ayurveda views body and health, it talks about a holistic balance between mind, body, and spirit, whereas modern medicine is very mechanistic, focusing on systems and symptoms. For example, then if you see the pramana, the source of knowledge is different in Ayurveda, whereas modern medicine is looking at empirical evidence for any outcome. Then approach to healing, Ayurveda always we look for the root cause. We say, hey, why are you having this problem? Whereas modern medicine will start with the symptoms, right? They treat the symptoms. If you have a pain, we kind of cut the pain sensation so you don't feel the pain. But then Ayurveda looks at why are you having the pain? What is the source? Then what is the role of nature in healing? Okay. So most of the times the healing is actually done by your own body. So that is one of the principles of Ayurveda, right? You're only assisting or aiding your body in healing. And nowadays, modern medicine, integrative medicine is slowly trying to come to terms with that. Ethics and dharma, Ayurveda is guided by dharma, whereas modern medicine is centered on patient autonomy and evidence-based practice. And again, traditional wisdom is from ancient texts, whereas in modern medicine, you need scientific validation. And the purpose of medicine, again, in Ayurveda is spiritual and physical well-being. In modern medicine, focuses on cure and disease management. In fact, modern medicine has become more of a disease management thing, unless you have an emergency or a surgery. For all chronic conditions, we are only managing the symptoms. So, what happened after that? So they were fighting, and the judge asked Patanjali to apologize. So they apologized. They stopped advertisements. So initially, their apology, they said, is not good enough. Then they had to do another apology. And this was the unconditional public apology they published in the newspaper. But in the end, even the judge was actually scolding IMA, saying, hey, you have your own problems. There are a lot of problems. In fact, a lot of doctors endorse medicines very quickly. So if you have medical reps going and selling some medicine and giving them commissions, those expensive medicines are what a lot of these people prescribe. So the judge kind of, his resolution on the conflict is, hey, Patanjali, you're wrong. You should not be making these claims. You should not be having these ads. and you should be careful what you're doing. You should apologize. But then on the other side, he also scolded IMA. Now, okay, if you look at it from a Vedic perspective, I thought there were two things that I learned in different courses at HUA. One is this Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. If you actually see, we are all one family. The net impact of what Ayurveda or modern medicine can do is to improve the health and well-being of everybody. So we are all one family and we should have a common goal. And the other is Chanakya's principle of Samadana Vedadanda. So you can try to reconcile between the two of them, or you can incentivize them for working together, or you can show there are problems with both places, both people, and you can be very strict and enforce all the controls and disciplines, right? Now, this new education policy that was launched in 2020 is also trying to deal with the same conflict. Okay. So what they were trying to do is, hey, can we have everybody, including modern medicine doctors, study Ayurveda? So can we introduce that in the curriculum? Can we introduce some modern medicine in that curriculum? So both sides learn things from the other perspective. Okay. So they wanted to talk about preventive wellness and incorporate it in the curriculum. So the new education policy kind of tries to bring a compromise between the two and say, hey, you need to respect each other's values and strengths and expose them from an early stage when you're doing your undergraduate degrees. Again, some people were not happy. Some people thought, oh, this will end up making people who practice mixopathy. So anything we do, there is always conflict. Somebody says, oh, I'm okay with this. Somebody says, oh, I'm not okay. And the biggest hit is anytime anybody says Ayurveda, they'll say, hey, we need scientific evidence and we need more ways of validating it. And why are there not evidence-based research happening in Ayurveda? So there are a lot of issues with that. Again, from a modern perspective, like I said, everybody wants transdisciplinary research, have Ayurveda, allopathy together, do integrative research, joint clinical protocols. So can we have protocols where when somebody treats a patient, they incorporate both? So this is one of the things we are working on at HUA. We are trying to kind of see if we can bring in integrative Ayurveda. That's what we have done with the acquisition of CCA also recently. So let's see how this goes. So what has happened in the end with all these conflicts and so on? See, the new generation of graduates are actually in a very difficult place. They are all confused because if you see the statistics today, majority of graduates are not practicing Ayurveda. They go on to work in allopathy centers. They are in emergency rooms. They are in night ICUs. And you only have Ayurveda graduates, some of them in Ayush centers in villages and small towns. Otherwise, many graduates are actually in modern medicine. And so there is a complete shift in the career goals. And because of this new modern curriculum, where they are having all anatomy, physiology, and modern medicine, the depth of Ayurvedic knowledge and the traditional information is not fully learned by these students. And lastly, they are always being told, hey, your drugs are not, your herbs are not scientifically validated. So they are in one very difficult stage where always people are in the defensive. So today we are in a very critical stage where there is a lot of conflict, and hopefully we can resolve this through the common goal, because clearly Ayurveda as a system has a lot to offer, and I feel that it should be your primary healthcare for many conditions. And once that acceptance comes, I think overall we will see a resurgence of Ayurveda, and hope it does not become like yoga where it's picked up more in the US and then it comes back to India. Thank you.